Hi guys, it's Claire. Welcome back. Today I am coming at you with a quick review of My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh, which came out last month and has been hard to miss, in part because of Moshfegh's previous work, which includes the Man Booker shortlisted novel Eileen, but also because of this very striking cover, which features a young woman who is the picture of being over it, and also some very vibrant hot pink typeface. Pre-millennial pink, if you will, because this novel is set in 2000 and 2001 in a pre-9/11 New York City where cell phones were little more than fancy walkie-talkies and where people were still making the shift from VCRs to DVD players. And it's here in a beautiful apartment on the Upper East Side that we find our unnamed narrator, who is a stunning, model-esque 20-something blonde who is attempting to sleep away an entire year of her life, riding a wave of sleeping pills and deep existential ennui. And this dream of an extended hibernation is made possible by a quack psychiatrist named Dr. Tuttle and by a massive inheritance left behind by our narrator's dead parents. And fueled by little more than Thai takeout and shitty bodega coffee, she envisions this year-long retreat not as a suicidal submersion, but rather as a chance at rebirth. She says, "Soon I was hitting the pills hard and sleeping all day and all night with 2 or 3 hour breaks in between. This was good, I thought. I was finally doing something that really mattered. Sleep felt productive. Something was getting sorted out. I knew in my heart, this was perhaps the only thing my heart knew back then, that when I'd slept enough, I'd be okay. I'd be renewed, reborn. I would be a whole new person. Every one of my cells regenerated enough times that the old cells were just distant, foggy memories. My past life would be but a dream, and I could start over without regrets, bolstered by the bliss and serenity that I would have accumulated in my year of rest and relaxation." So she doesn't want to tap out of life completely, but she does want to find a way to escape and remake herself. And so she pops pills and passes out, and during her brief waking hours, she spends most of her time watching and rewatching Whoopi Goldberg and Harrison Ford films on VHS, that kind of mind-numbing but familiar entertainment that serves as another kind of tranquilizer. But her thoughts do occasionally drift back to scenes from her chilly, loveless childhood, to her brief stint as a Manhattan gallery girl where she spent most of her time sleeping in closets, and to her degrading on-again, off-again relationship with a finance jockstrap named Trevor. Her sleep is also occasionally interrupted by visits from her only friend Riva, who she doesn't even like that much, and whose constant social striving and desperate desire to embody a sort of Sex and the City single girl lifestyle serves as a stark and sometimes tragic foil to our narrator's deadening apathy. And I think what's immediately appealing about this book is the sharpness of the writing and the biting details and the period-specific pop culture references, and above all, the voice of our anti-heroine, whose caustic running commentary and whose very meanness make her both a despicable and in some ways delightful protagonist. Her withering disdain for everything and everyone, whether it be Rite Aid employees or the self-important visionaries of the New York experimental art scene, or her own friend's grief over her mother's passing, is sometimes shocking and sometimes hilarious and sometimes just ugly and cruel. But the prose is always electric and so readable, even when reading it feels kind of like swallowing battery acid, but in a good way. But beyond the stylistic appeal of this book and beyond the kind of clever and flashy premise, I think what makes this book worth recommending is everything that's lurking just under the surface, under the veil of consciousness, if you will. Because there is something deeper going on with this narrator. Under all her meanness and all her unlikability, there is some real shit that she hasn't dealt with, including grief over the death of her parents, who she doesn't remember particularly fondly, but whose house upstate she still can't bear to part with because she keeps thinking about how their hairs and skin cells might still be lodged in the cracks in the floorboards. There's also something more complicated going on with her relationship with Riva, who she treats terribly and who she despises in so many ways, but who she can't seem to let go of either. In a lot of ways, their relationship is the most interesting element of this book because they are, in so many ways, mirror images of each other. They're both self-loathing and unhappy and looking to reinvent themselves through different versions of a kind of self-annihilation. Riva through these vicious and brutal cycles of diets and binging and purging and self-help mantras, and our narrator on the flip side through the very passive escape of sleep and cynicism. And in some ways, I think that you can read the narrator's disdain for Riva as another kind of projection of her own self-hatred. And although it's easy to want to dismiss this narrator because of the relative ease and luxury of her life, because of her wealth and beauty and privilege, I think that's kind of an easy reading that glosses over a lot of the other things going on in this book, because this novel isn't really meant to be a study in realism. Her wealth in many ways is a plot convenience that allows her to undertake this unrealistic project in the first place, and I'm pretty sure any real human being taking her daily cocktail of pills and Dayquil and Dimetapp would be like dead within 3 days, rich or not. Instead, her hibernations seem to me to be an exaggerated version of the kinds of behaviors you might recognize if you've ever gone through depressive periods of your life. Because outlandish and insane as this idea of rebirth through prolonged sleep may be, I kind of get where she's coming from. It's that desperate desire in the midst of self-loathing and alienation to somehow escape yourself and find a way out and start over. So yes, the narrator is despicable and detestable in so many ways, but she's also very human. And under the kind of prickly, almost poisonous prose, there is a real vulnerability and kind of grudging tenderness in this book that took me by surprise. And speaking of that, for anyone who has read the book, I would love to know what you thought of the very last page, because although I wasn't surprised by the ending, I thought that that last page represented a kind of tonal shift that made me rethink the rest of the book. And I don't know if that shift is quite earned or if it's too abrupt, but I do think that very last sentence is just like a knockout and hits you like a punch in the stomach. So I definitely recommend this book. It does drag on a little too long in the middle, and I did think that the year of hibernation concluded a little too easily. If you've read this book, I would love to talk more about it in the comments below, or if you have thoughts on like sleep and stuff, feel free to let me know about that too. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!